how proud are you of the team to get some of that again?
Yeah, extremely proud of the group. I think for us, irrespective of what the decision was at half-time, I felt as though it was a real big test of something that was mentioned at half-time. And I say this all the time, this is not, for me, it's not about the result, it's more about the performance, so I can't fault them. I thought we actually defended quite well in a lower block that second half. We conceded, I think, a really poor goal off the set piece, but once we changed everything to get back into the game, I actually felt we were pretty good. We had a lot of width with Oldie, OVH, Oscar coming on. And Suts actually made a couple of good passes down on the left-hand side, and even though we're a little bit exposed with not playing with proper fullbacks and just a back three that were a little bit flexible, I felt like we actually started getting into the game, and my gut was telling me that Victory were starting to drop off, and they were actually a little bit fearful, and I felt as though if we kept pushing, we were going to get a goal. And I think the moment that gave me the biggest belief was when Oscar Van Hadden came to the top of the box and cut back in, and I felt like, all right, we're in this game. So, yeah, hats off to him.
On the penalty, so Costa's scored in his last 5 games. Up until last season, Altuve was never scored an A-League goal before. Was he always going to be the one to take that penalty?
No, that's not for me to decide. It's down to the players. They'll discuss with themselves, and whoever's confident, they'll take the penalty. That's not for me to make that judgment. I know some coaches like doing that. I feel like if someone is confident enough to take it on the day with the pressure, good luck to them. And because it's sometimes if you put that burden on a player and he's not ready, and he has to do it anyway, sometimes he can miss because of that.
Well, how big of a play was that from the captain?
To score, yeah, it was good, but I didn't see it, so I don't watch penalties. So I was in the corner, just watching the crowd's reaction. So I didn't even know Rich actually took the penalty, to be fair, because I turned around as soon as the penalty was given.
Why don't you watch them?
Because I can't handle them.
And did you know what the discussion was? Did you pull rank, or have you found out about that?
No, I don't. I haven't spoken to them, but that's for them to decide. And again, it comes down to confidence. If the player believes that he can score, then he can take the penalty.
What did you make of the yellow card at Rachel Reid for Tim Payne?
Look, I want to go back on the video because from my angle, I felt as though when he made the challenge, his foot was already down when he's come through the ball. I couldn't tell whether or not there was actual contact. I know that there must have been some contact for the card to be given. Now with his foot down and his planting foot coming like almost directly on the challenge, I felt like it's very hard to establish intent, and it's not even reckless. It's just more the fraction of a second timing. So I felt that was harsh. But again, if I see the replay at a closer angle, I'm happy to admit if I'm wrong. Yeah.
So the ball leave you a whole next week at least to make it work out, because it's likely to this probably work on this one game.
Sure. Yeah.
So is there a bit of a lack of depth in that position in your squad at right back?
No, we have Moialte at the moment that could play in that position. I also have Nicol that played like that today in that position, and I also have Matt Sheridan that could play in that position as well. So I'll have to assess during the week what the best option is for the squad, and I think we're going to do something a little bit different as well tactically for this Newcastle game, because they gave us a bit of problems when they played here last. So I'll have to assess all those factors, and then I'll come up with something.
You've fended off every challenge that's come your way as a coach this year. Or
sure.
Say fended off, you've dealt with them. You
yes.
dealt with a 45-minute period with only 10 men tonight. What were your instructions to your team at halftime?
It was more about I'm not going to say the words that I used at halftime, but it was more about discipline, structure, more about the collective, and just grinding out the performance. And we train for this all the time. We have scenarios of training where we put pressure on oppositions, and we make everything results orientated. So it gets them in the mindset that when these things happen, that they're mentally ready to go through it. So again, I feel the response once we conceded was very good. I mean, I don't mind saying that at half time I was happy to take a draw from the game, with the intent that if the space opened up, that we could exploit them and potentially get a win. But my focus was not losing at halftime, so that was more why we had a defensive approach. But once we went 1-0 down, we just went full pelt, and nothing that the boys haven't trained before, so they did quite well.
Just a comment on Oscar Van Hatten. He's come on and he's impacted games off the bench.
Yes.
He's an assist, compelled a red card, if that's impacting a game.
Yeah.
Tonight he won a penalty.
Yes.
Is that what you're hoping for from a player like that?
100%. So for me, it's not. I'm not looking for massive leaps with Oscar. For me, it's more about confidence and getting his footing right in the league. I think he's the sort of player that needs the game to open up because he has considerable pace. He's actually very flary by nature, and he likes making forward runs. Sometimes it's harder for him to play, for example, in that Wanderers game where it was more structured, harder for him to get into that game. So that's why I went with Supek in that game. But every time I felt as though he could come on and make an impact with that space, he's actually done quite well. And I think once he starts banging in goals regularly, he'll be a force.
The pain seemed to obviously change the game.
Mm-hmm.
And you obviously set up more defensively in the second half. Just go back to that first half.
Mm-hmm.
What did you make of the contest then? Did you think it was worthy of the top of the table? Because to me it was a very open contest, lots of pinging balls around, it was good football.
I probably didn't see it like that. I felt as though we weren't as good with the ball. I felt we could have done a lot better. We were a little bit slow once we got cornered on the right side and moving the ball out to the left side to Oldie. I think we could have done that a little bit quicker. If we did that with more effect, I think we would have been rewarded. We made a big chance with BK to score. That came from that moment.
Any questions about that, Ken?
Look, again, I spoke to the referees, head of referees the other week. He put a definition, with soft foul, hard foul, upper body. There's a bigger discretion for the foul. Lower body, it's less of a discretion. So that was more upper body. The players falling. Again, my feeling was a pen, but I scream for a penalty every foul. So I can't tell until I have a look at the replay.
You'd be screaming. You'd be pretty upset if you're proper with the last minute pen, right?
Yeah, I would be too. No, I don't think anyone's happy conceding a penalty at the last minute. From what I saw, it looked like contact. So for me, that by definition, that's a penalty. Like Tim Payne's one where they deemed, he had his studs up, and that's a red card.